Hi there, viewers of Equinoxe. It's 6 p.m. past 2 o'clock. Thank you so much for taking the rendezvous with us on this edition of the news. We begin right away with our major stories. The local population of the city of Douala is already crying foul following the decision of the governor of the littoral, Samuel Farhad, to restrict the activities of commercial bike riders in Douala from 8 p.m. to 6 a.m. And also in this newscast, the Douala City Dwellers are complaining that the commercial motorbike riders have already increased transportation costs. And how are the people in Douala succeeding in transporting themselves across the city, especially at night? We are going to be telling you more in this newscast, so stay with us for details. Welcome back, viewers. We just told you in the headlines that following the decision of the governor Samuel Farhad to restrict the activities of commercial bike riders in the city of Douala, the population is already crying foul, complaining that bike riders in the city have already increased transportation costs within the town of Douala. Our reporter Lucy Liengu made a stop over at some neighborhoods here in Douala where commercial activities are high. She now tells us more in this report.
On the circulation of bikes from 8 p.m. to 6 a.m. has increased the cost of transportation in the city of Douala. Road users complain bike riders have seized the opportunity to increase transport fare. With the difficult moments we are facing, people cannot cope, talk less of removing extra cash like 100 francs. It's not easy at all. So I think the solution is not here. I think this is extortion because they are exaggerating. It is not our fault that the price of fuel has increased. Yesterday, I happened to take a bike to Douala Bar. The driver proposed 250 francs and I asked him if this is a price of a taxi fare. While others also complain bikes are now involved in overloading. Talking to some bike riders, they say their reason is to cover up with the loss incurred due to their inability to work at night. Some bike riders used to work at night from 4 p.m. to midnight. All of them now work during the day, so there is an increase in the number of bikes during the day, and many take the opportunity to step up their prices. The population hope that the measures be lifted so as to reduce the burden on the masses.
And now the local population is also complaining that besides the increase in the cost of transportation by commercial motorbike riders in Douala after the decision of the governor restricting their activities, it is even very difficult to find bikes to transport them either from their houses to their business places or to and fro. Let's now have more on what the locals of Douala are going through, especially at night in relation to transportation, with her staffman Babila Jonathan.
9 p.m. Thursday, we begin our night journey across Cameroon's economic capital, Douala, at Mobile Bonakomwan, also known as Carrefour Equinoxe. The popular junction is a little busy, but not as busy as usual because of the littoral governor, Samuel Farhad's ban on the circulation of motorcycles from 8 p.m. to 6 a.m. to curb insecurity in Douala. However, some few motorbikes are seen crossing the junction, but none is stationed anywhere around here, as it was the case before the ban. This one is picking up a client who has been waiting for close to half an hour. Her neighbors are still waiting for either a cab or a bike. Few meters away from here is another group of city dwellers with their eyes fixed on the road in expectation of a cab or bike to take them home. He has been on standstill for more than 2 hours in Bonakwamon. A bike would normally take him from here straight to his house, but he is obliged to board a cab on 2 drops. From Bonakwamon to one of the busiest parts of Douala, Rue de la Joie. This area is often as busy as a beehive at night, but today it is a near-death zone. All the beer parlors here are closed in respect to the instructions of Governor Samuel Dieudonné Vahadibois. The women and men who are always here roasting fish and meat through the night are out of business. At another part of Rue de la Joie, some few of them are managing to do business. Business is witnessing a slump. For the past 3 days, it has been difficult for her to feed her family. Same for this commercial biker, whose income has significantly dropped. On vient d'arrêter les motos devant moi à 2 églises. On nous tape comme les enfants dans la rue de Douala. He laments over the fact that they are beaten by forces of law and order, like children. Il est inadmissible que d'autres personnes font le désordre, mais on vient accuser les benzineurs. He does not understand why bike riders are punished for crimes committed by other people.
Je ne comprends pas pourquoi ça s'abat seulement sur les commerces.
He questions why economic activities are suffering the consequences of actions of suspected criminals.
Mais par contre, les bailleurs vont nous attendre avec le loyer.
Few minutes to 11 p.m. we are in Dokoti. Several persons are struggling to go home. Though many more bikes are seen circulating here, the number of persons demanding their services is far above supply, so to speak.
Je vais faire comment pour arriver chez moi? Il n'y a pas de moto dehors ni de taxi.
She lives in Makepe and her son in Lokpom. Both of them do business in Village. From Village, they are stranded here. While the administrative injunction to curb insecurity and particularly to end activities of a group of violent young people known as Lemicrob is not approved by all those we interviewed. This group of youth saying they are tired of Lemicrob and want their activities to end.
And now, do you know that since yesterday, December 15, 2022, there have been the circulation of new banknotes across Cameroon? How do the new banknotes look like, and what are some of the specificities of the new banknotes? Our reporter Immaculate Fogwe tells us that for now, even the old banknotes are still very valid. Let's now have our report.
New banknotes have begun circulating across the Semak sub-region. The Bank of Central African States, BIAC, yesterday announced that the new banknotes were already available in central banks. Speaking to the press, the country's Deputy Director of BIAC justifies the reasons for this change.
Our objective
is to have an upper hand on those producing counterfeit banknotes. The new notes have modern security signs which makes it difficult for it to be falsified. Secondly, we want to ameliorate the quality of the banknotes. Most of the notes that were available were already old. He goes further to explain that the new banknotes have technical characteristics which takes into consideration visually impaired persons. You can see on the notes that there are some signs that can be felt when touched. For example, 500 has 1 line, 1000 has 2 lines, 2000 3 lines, and 10,000 5 lines. The signs will enable visually impaired persons differentiate. It should be noted that the 2002 range of banknotes are still valid and will be accepted without any distinction. These banknotes will also be used in the Central African Republic, Chad, Equatorial Guinea, Gabon and the Democratic Republic of Congo.
And now 4 individuals who allegedly burgled the Chadian consulate here in Douala, killing the security officers there who was on guard. They have been apprehended by security forces here in Douala in collaboration with those of the Far North region. A reporter, Innocent Arce, tells us that they were guided by someone who worked with the Chadian consulate here in Douala. Let's now have the report of Innocent Arce.
It was on the night of November 26th to the 27th that these 4 alleged criminals burgled into the premises of the Consulate General of Chad in Douala. They took the security guard asleep by surprise. In a video captured by surveillance cameras, the men wearing caps to hide their faces were seen stabbing the security guards with knives after tying him up and his face bandaged with a piece of cloth. According to gendarmerie officials who have been investigating the crime, the men in the video were after the sum of 28 million francs CFA in a safe allegedly allowed open by the Deputy Consul General, accused by the arrested suspects of planning the whole mafia. The offices of the secretaries with consular receipts worth 28 million francs CFA approximately were ransacked. Informed, elements of the Douala 1 Gendarmerie Company descended to the crime scene and opened investigation. The exploitation of surveillance cameras made it possible to see 4 men wearing caps and mufflers breaking into the consulate around 1:30 a.m. It also permitted them know the time, the modus operandi, and the contact numbers of the people present at the scene of the crime. Investigation also revealed there was internal complicity, amongst which is Mahamat Musa Zezeti, a Chadian by nationality, a personnel who was suspended by the Consul General 40 days ago. According to gendarme officials, he was in communication with those on the crime scene slightly before, during and after the operation. One of the established contacts was used to threaten the killed security guard days back. Gendarmes concluded that Mahamad Musa Zezeti's telephone was used to coordinate the operation. On December 5 at about 3 p.m. in the New Bell neighborhood, precisely around the central prison, Mahamad Musa was arrested, but he refused all accusations against him. His telephone exploited contained the numbers he communicated with during the operation. The numbers bore the names King Kong and General King. Further exploitation resulted to the arrest of Hujairu Nasser early December 7 in the New Bell neighborhood. 2 other gang members were later arrested in the city of Douala on December 8, being Adamu Musa, aka General Baba Lade, at Tegal in the Brazzaville neighborhood, and Hamadou Musa around Marché de Fleurs in Bonapriso. Babila Lancho Cyril also told Equinoxe Television that a coordination with the Investigation Bureau Chief of the Far North Gendarmerie Legion led to the arrest of the 4th gang member called Abubakar Idrisu alias King Kong by elements of the Maga Brigade in the locality of Guvedik and transported to Douala, where he was reunited with his group brothers, who will in the coming days appear before judges to answer to charges of murder, burglary, theft and others labeled on them by the gendarmerie officials.
And now we talk health. Parents and educational stakeholders of the Southwest region have been told that autism is not bad luck and autistic children are not wizards or witches. The call was made by some health experts who say such children need just some time for their intelligence to be boosted. Let's now have more with a reporter for me, Armstrong Sander.
With a focus to be trained on how to properly manage children with autism in schools, the parents and stakeholders of the educational sector were drawn to Limbe from the 6 divisions of the Southwest region.
We found out that autism needs special attention. That's why we're here.
Opening the 4-day workshop, the founder of the Center for Research on Child and Family Development, Professor Therese Munga Shalom, said participants will be imparted with knowledge and skills that will enable them address the issue of autism in school milieu and their homes.
We tend to talk about clinical pedagogy. When we say clinical pedagogy, it's like you go to the hospital and a doctor is diagnosing you and the rest. In classroom context, it's another medical kind of approach. But we don't call it medical, but because we have our own educational activities that will engage in to identify these kinds of weaknesses in children, particularly as concerns learning. Because if we don't, we will not be able to address our pedagogical activities.
The Honorary Dean of the University of Buea added that the workshop will go a long way to changing the lives of autistic children and give them a bright future.
Diagnose especially those ones who have short-sightedness or hearing problems.
Speaking on behalf of the Southwest Regional Delegate for Basic Education, Madame Malangwe Rose Bume applauded the initiative, highlighting that the situation of autism in schools have been quite challenging, especially as they, in most cases, find themselves neglected by their teachers. She thinks the initiative is worthwhile, given that government alone cannot handle the problem.
And this will also help the children to feel that they belong in a community.
For their part, the Secretary of Rotary Club Limbe and Club Treasurer said the club identifies hard issues in the society that are difficult to address and seek solutions to, hence the workshop to address autism in schools. The participants received knowledge on the meaning, types and determinants of autism, restricted, repetitive and stereotype patterns of behavior, communication and social deficit, interaction deficit, autism identification instruments, among others.
And now, staying health will now take you to the Northwest Regional Headquarters of Bamenda, where diabetes is said to be one of the major causes of death in the Northwest region, especially within the adult population. The elderly, the old people have been advised to check their blood sugar very often so as to reduce the death rate caused by diabetes. Let's now have more with Mbu Stella. She tells us more from Bamenda.
Esther, not her real name, has been suffering for the past 4 years of complications related to the known treatment of diabetes. She tells Equinoxe television that she lacks money for medical treatment and had since turned to traditional medicine. Her situation has since then been deteriorating.
I don't fall stroke.
I have had stroke twice. At times I don't talk. I don't even see.
I know the see.
Like Esther, the economic situation of many who suffer from diabetes has been worsened by the armed conflict. They now go for months hoping to find water in a desert. At times I go even for 3 months without medications because I don't have money.
It has not been very easy managing diabetes, particularly during these moments of crisis. You see, where we cannot find easy movement to get to the point of treatment. There are times when roads are not passable, and that is why most of us have taken advantage of this particular initiative to come here, because after this we might not even have opportunity again to find this kind of initiative where we can have our treatment.
In Bali, a community in the Northwest region, the rate of people suffering from diabetes is on the increase. Chongwa Matilda, a PhD candidate researching on diabetes, says the lack of proper knowledge is fatal than the disease.
Education is what is lacking in our community. There are a lot of people who have diabetes. They don't even know what diabetes is all about, and also to learn on management, how to manage them.
At a free screening and awareness campaign in Bali, health practitioners warn against myths which are life-threatening.
It is very important to stick to your medication. Diabetes is a condition which is, if I would say, everlasting, and you need to take your medications regularly and as prescribed and have a very close follow-up so that you don't get into the complications.
According to the World Health Organization, 1.5 million deaths are directly attributed to diabetes every year. Health experts therefore advise that eating healthy, regular exercising, and follow-up on medications can reduce the impact of the disease in communities.
And now in culture, the Tupuri community, especially those who live in Banjok in the central region of the country joined others across the world to commemorate the feast of the Fiokage, or the feast of the cock. We're expecting to have the images on our screens. It is a traditional ceremony carried out, that is the feast of the Fiokage. The feast of the cock was carried out by the Tupuri people to pledge the unity among them and also commune with each other as the year comes to an end. In Banjok, where there is a huge Tupuri community, the indigenous people used their opportunity to denounce some ills among them, such as early marriages, early and forceful marriages, and consumption of hard drugs. Some problems which they face in agriculture, agricultural production was also highlighted by the Tupuri community in the just ended Feast of the Cock, or the Fiokage, in Banjok. And now in sports, we talk handball. The handballers of the Cameroon national team are demanding to be paid their dues after they have been promised payments in vain for some time now. The national handball team players were to be paid at least the sum of 1.5 million francs CFA. But reports say they were given the sum of 890,000 francs each. They also complain about inadequate preparation before matches, among other difficulties. And so we'll be coming back to the grievances of the national handball players in our subsequent news editions. Viewers, that was what we put together for you this evening on the news. We thank you so much for always being with us. Don't go away, as usual. Programs continue on Equinoxe Television. Julien Beth Bissai will be with you at 8 p.m. for the news in the French language. Stay with us on Equinoxe Television and have a beautiful weekend. Bye for now.
Equinoxe Télévision, au-delà de l'image, nous rendons compte.
Comme chaque année, de nombreux enfants rêvent